test myself in my class. And this question was in my mind since I started to write different assignments, different researches in my previous 2 master's degree. And when I got like this assignment here, then only I got the chance to test myself whether this written feedback is important for the students or not. But before I provide you the agenda for the day, I would like to ask you 2 questions as the students and the teachers. First question will be, how many of you are recently teaching? How many of you are teaching recently? Can you raise your hand? Yes. So, how many of you are teaching writing? Okay, good. And the rest of us are students, and we get written feedback from our instructors, right? Okay, so how do you feel about it? Like when you get the feedback from your teachers, how do you feel? The written feedback particularly. How do you feel? Do you get nervous, or you feel better, or you have some other feelings about it? How do you feel about it? When you give feedback as a teacher, and when you get feedback as the student, what is your feeling about it? How do you perceive that?
Nervous.
Nervous? Okay, good. What else? What else?
I think it's helpful.
Helpful?
Yeah.
Great, great. Any other? Yeah.
I would like to see how it will be communicated on the other hand.
Okay.
For example, if I am giving feedback to my students, I would like to see how will they perceive it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I get feedback, I try to imagine what possibly would be there in my instructor's mind when she or he is giving me feedback.
Exactly. And same sort of feeling was there in my head. When I was getting feedback from my instructors, I was like, when I didn't understand feedback, I got nervous. And I was thinking about my grades too. And same thing happened with me. I teach, when I go to the classroom, I give for my students, I give a lot of feedback to my students in their writing. And the question came in my mind, okay, I'm giving feedback to my students, but how they feel about it. If they don't feel good about written feedback, they are not going to improve. They have to feel good about feedback. Then only they will work on it. Then I started, this question came in my mind, and I started to some sort of action research in my classroom. So this is what I did in my class, and this is how I put here. How do multilingual writers, my students, perceive written feedback in writing? Because they write 3 essays, and in each draft they get feedback from me. Okay. And this is what I did in this university with my students. And agenda for the day under this action research will be this. This is what I will be doing throughout the presentation today. Number 1, I will be talking about the problem statement, which some people call context setting, or some people say the problem, okay? Or some say background information. Whatever you say, I'll be talking about this problem statement. And lit review, I did a little bit review, not the reach amount, there's a couple of those. And the methodology, where I'll be talking about, I have one research question particularly, like not many. And participants, who are they? Data collection tool and data analysis. I'll be talking about under methodology. And result and discussion, I have 3 themes that I found out from my research, 3 findings mainly, with the help of 3 questions. And this is what I'll be talking about, and I will have conclusion and implication, and I will welcome your questions as I finish my presentation. So let's get started. this is how problem I thought written feedback was a problem. Through my experience as the instructor, because I give a lot of feedback to my students, then I started to think, okay, do they like it? Or they don't like it at all? I wanted to test it. And you will get the result of what happened at the end of the presentation. And second thing, I also talked to other TAs in the staff room, in TA office. I talked about this thing, okay, what method do you apply to give feedback? Only written feedback, or do you have any other ways of providing feedback to the students? And then my own experience as a student, So these are the three aspects of the problems that I thought that was a problem. Then I started to do some sort of action research in my classroom. And I did some couple of lit review where particularly I looked at how the scholars define feedback, either oral or written, right? And I looked at those some of those literature, and some of these scholars, like, they define direct feedback and indirect feedback in different ways. Feedback is explicit, okay? And they also talk about, some of the scholars, they talk about indirect feedback, which how they define is they provide poor techniques to provide feedback. If someone is willing to provide feedback, there are poor techniques that the teacher has to apply. Poor techniques, number one, which they define as indirect feedback. Number one is the error is circled or underlined, okay, under indirect feedback. What they say is, under indirect feedback, teacher has to circle or underline the error. Number two, number of mistakes are mentioned in the margin. That's what I do. That's what I do. I do not circle, I do not underline, but I mention something in the margin of the paper for my student. And number C is code is used to show where and what type of mistakes are committed. This is what I don't know. What I do is just go to the margin and comment whatever I find in my student's essay, okay? This is what the scholars say about direct feedback and indirect feedback. And in my class, I do not use direct feedback method. Instead, I use indirect. Under indirect also, I use the margin for providing comments to my students. And second lit review that comes from some of these scholars about the perceptions of these students, how students perceive feedback in different parts of the world, in different classroom settings. And these are the scholars, they define like, students use instructor feedback as the hint, as Saurabh was talking about, Dan talked about it. And some of the students also, studies also showed that students, get nervous when they see feedback of their instructors. And these are some of the, literature from some of the scholars. That's what I reviewed. 3 questions to my students. This is the main question. How multilingual writers perceive teacher-written feedback in their writing? That was the question. On the basis of that, I developed 3 more questions, and to ask my students. Then there are 18 students in my class, but on that day when I administered the test, there were only 15. 3 were absent. I used open-ended questions, 3 questions, and provided with 3 open-ended questions. Students they individually wrote the answers, or they individually asked the questions. Data analysis, data was coded. Under the result and discussion, I have 3 themes actually. 3 themes on the basis of 3 research questions. Now, I would like to have your attention on research questions. So the first question was this. Would you feel nervous or good when you see comments or feedback in your essay and why? That was the first question. And I developed themes from these questions on the basis of their answer, their responses. And second question was, does written feedback in your writing help improve your writing? How? Okay? And I had third question, how would you want your instructor to provide you feedback? Number A, by pointing out all the mistakes in the essay. B, by correcting all the mistakes. C, by pointing out the serious mistakes only, or any other they had to mention. So there were 3 questions. On the basis of these 3 questions, responses, I had 3 themes in my finding. For example, number 1 was effect of instructor feedback, and under these 3 themes, I have got the findings, results of the research. Effect of instructor feedback, 1, 2, students' perception towards instructor feedback, 3, ways of providing feedback. Now you will see what happened in my classroom. You will see the finding now, what students responded. Let's go to first one, first theme, which emerged from the question number 1. The question number 1 was, would you feel nervous or good when you see the feedback in your essay and why? That was the first question. And this theme emerged from the question number 1. And let's see what happened. What's the finding? The finding is all the participants, means 15 of those, reported that they felt positive about written feedback. Then I was happy. Because I was so sad, because I used to give a lot of comments, and I thought, oh my God, does it really work for my students? I was happy when I got this response, this sort of response. All of them accepted that, reported that all of them were happy about the feedback. And you can see P7 here means participant 7 expressed. These are the representative responses from my students. What one of the respondents said was, I feel good because it points out what I did correctly and incorrectly, so that I don't do the same mistake next time, in next draft, right? Some mistakes are hard to find out myself, like grammar, punctuation. Therefore, it's good to get feedback from the teacher. And I was so happy, yes, I did a great job, right? And this thinking, this concept is pretty much related to the scholar there. So I tried to link what finding I got with the lit review. So Bo, how do you say this, Bo? Bo also expressed, found out that students felt good about feedback. Let's go to second one. This is the second theme from question number 2. And this is about students' perception and belief about feedback. Now, almost all the students, they responded that feedback is helpful for improvement in writing. And there are representative responses there. One of participant 3, P3 is participant 3, absolutely yes. It was the question number 2. Does written feedback in your writing help improve your writing? Why? How? That was the question. Then one of the participants, replied or answered, absolutely yes. Due to the feedback, I can see my mistakes and next time I can avoid them. See again. Which is pretty much related to this scholar. These scholars' findings that I reviewed in my lit review section. And the last one, I asked them, what are the ways that you think your teacher has to apply to provide you feedback? That I had, and this, with these responses, what I found out was different students reported different ways of getting feedback. Now I was thinking, I was using the same way for all 18 students. And with this response of my students, now it triggered my ways of providing feedback to my students. Now I have to think what other ways can be used to provide feedback. You know, not only written one, but also some other ways, because this response shows that I have to use something different for other students. Okay? And conclusion and implications. Now I have 3 main findings on the basis of 3 questions. All the students were positive about written feedback. That's a good thing for me. Okay, I don't have to change like any technique for that in my class. All of them reported that the written feedback helped them. But for the third one, different students had different opinions about how they would like to be provided with feedback. Means some students, they would like to be like, they want their teacher point out all the mistakes. Some of them want correct all the mistakes. Some of them want, point out serious mistakes only. For this finding, I have to change my ways or techniques of providing feedback in my class. And pedagogical implications of this small, action research in my classroom is academic, writing instructors. Academic writing instructors can take help from this, especially providing feedback, And EFL and ESL course designer can take a little help from this, but I can't say huge help, but this is not pretty deep study, but it will help me. But also some other, ESL and EFL teachers can take help from this, and there is a huge space for further research. That is, this sort of action research can be implemented, can be done in larger population, not only 15 students, right? Larger in other classes, and also in different setting, means different context. Maybe when I go my country, then I can do it there, may have different results, right? And Paul can do it in his class, Dan and everyone. So can have different results. And it has a space for further research too. With this, these are the references that I followed, and I want your questions and comments now. Any? Yes, please.
So I was wondering that since few of your students responded that teachers should correct all the mistakes, so how did you deal with their psychology, or how did you help them reflecting on your perspective that?
That's a good question. This is just I researched just now. Now I have to think about it. I haven't applied this research in my class now.
Okay.
Maybe from next semester, I will think about it. Some of them wanted me to correct all the mistakes. Some of them wanted me to correct only serious mistakes. Some of them wanted me to correct, just point out the mistakes. So I need to think about it from next semester. I mean, it's a recursive process. So I have to again go for the problem, then work on it, use it, then again question, then again implement, then again see what happens there. So that's a good question. Yes, I need to see that in next semester.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank
Yes,
you.
please.
So what kind of feedback do you give to students, like grammar feedback or like a content, because you are saying pointing out all of the mistakes and errors?
Oh yeah. So here, all of the mistakes here, what I mean is in the first draft, I do not see grammar and sentences, nothing. I just see the structure of the essay. For example, they write cause and effect essay. Then in the first draft, I only see the structure of cause and effect essay. Do they have hook? Do they have thesis statement? Do they have topic sentence, supporting detail, and conclusion? I just work on the structure of the essay. In the second draft, I look at the grammar. I look at the vocabulary, appropriate vocabulary, sentence structure. Some students use like 2 sentences with, we can say, in 2 words only. So reduction of language, avoiding redundancy. I work in second draft. Okay, so that is what I do. In first draft, I look at the structure of the essay. Then from second draft, I look at the minor mistakes also, grammar and other vocabulary. I categorize grammar and these vocabulary mistakes they are minor. They are not serious. The serious one is the structure, whether they are in that essay format or not, cause and effect, or problem solution, whatever, or narrative, argumentative, they have to be in that format. First. Then second comes minor mistakes, grammar, spelling, punctuation, everything. Does that answer your question?
Yes, do you correct them?
Yeah, I correct from second draft.
Do you give them suggestions on how to do it better, or do you just correct them?
With examples.
Right.
With examples. For example, okay, I highlight, okay, this is what you have done. I would suggest if you do this, that would be more appropriate. Like, I give some example. Okay, this is the problem, then example. You could do this. Still, they are not happy. All of them are not happy with me. Did you saw the finding. They are not happy. I need to see that. Yes, please.
So why did you decide to choose for your first question? Do you feel good or nervous, and why didn't you choose to say like, how do you feel? Because there's so many variables other than like, I was kind of confused what good meant specifically.
Mm-hmm. What good means? Okay, positive, you mean if I could use the word positive or?
Well, even like you was like, how do you feel? Like some might be like, I mean, you kind of said nervous, but that could be like scared. And I mean, that kind of relates to anxious, but like good would be like, I mean, do they feel like positive? Are they like excited to get feedback? Like more so like instead of just good, because even in the response you got, she said it was good to like get the feedback, but it, like some kids like get really self-conscious too. I think that would be a good one to include as well, like along the realms of nervous.
Okay.
'Cause they might-
You know, or.
I mean, I think what she's saying is just take out any label on your part and just leave it
And
completely.
kind of say,
open.
How do you feel?
how do you
How do you
feel?
feel?
Yeah.
How does it make you feel?
Mhm.
And then they can tell you like whatever.
Yeah, they don't
that's
have
it.
to like try to fit it into a category.
Okay, okay, great. Please. Yes. Yeah, you were there.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was wondering like about the positive feedback, as you were talking about like the mistakes. And then I wonder if you provide like, for example, like if a student like he writes a really good sentence, and then do you like sort of like say, oh, this is good, and then
Yeah, I do that too.
because
Yes.
I wonder if there are like so many like negative feedback, like corrections, like would that influence students' confidence?
That's, I mean, that is what I wanted to know, you know. But students liked it. There are negative feedback and positive feedback both. First, I say like, okay, you have good thesis statement, right? Well done. Go ahead. Then I come to the second comment where there is a mistake. Then I say, okay, here is a problem, and what it would be better if you do this. Then this is negative feedback. I don't say, I mean, how do you call it? But first positive, then negative. Yeah, and because of that, I wanted to ask them, but they are happy with it. They need it.
So I have a question, in terms of how you're gonna think about this next. So the students liked getting feedback, which I think is generally true. They want to have teachers tell them what they're doing right and wrong. How do you balance what students perceive they need and want with what actually, so if students think it improves their writing, have you looked at, does it actually shift from essay to essay? Like, in the first essay, I gave them feedback on the need for a stronger thesis, and in the second essay, did they do better? Like, have you used that kind of
course, I did.
analysis?
I did. It was good until they get to the third draft. They really develop good essay.
But I mean, then in the next essay, are they able to
Exactly,
take
next
that? So when they do their first draft of the second essay, can you see that they've taken the feedback you gave them in the first essay to apply that to the second essay?
Yeah.
It's difficult. I mean, I'm not saying you should have
Exactly.
done that, but have you thought
Exactly.
about that?
Some of them do, not most of them. They don't do. Like, this is a problem too. I think I have to think about this problem in my next action research. Like, you know, some of them they do completely, they work on all the feedback, but sometimes they don't. You know, if they work on all the feedback, then yeah, second draft, I get the improved one, right? But if
Sure.
you don't work on this, I get the same. Sometimes they just submit whatever, they submitted in the first draft.
Yeah.
So I need to look at that too.
But I'm also, I think also look at the next essay.
Yeah.
So not drafts of the same essay, but are they taking the feedback you gave them in essay number 1, the compare and contrast?
To the problem solution.
To the problem, or, no,
Or-
yeah.
yeah.
Problem
Maybe next
solution,
essay.
second essay. So
Oh.
does that feedback actually improve their writing, or does it just improve
Overall.
that draft?
Exactly.
And so that is a bigger question that students think it makes a difference, but does it?
Yeah. For example, I asked them to design a title page for the first essay, right? And in title page, they have a running head, right? Running head, and where they put title in title page. And this is a good thing, and I'm really happy with this. They use that title page for all the essays, which I told them in first essay. Some of them they use, but not all of them.
Yeah,
There's still a problem.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
That's great to know.
Yeah, I avoid using negative words if possible.
Yes.
And then second day, if you go to the class, then if they see your feedback with negative sentences, then they are like, they don't want to participate, right? If you have, okay, great, well done. So what if you do this, right? Sort of.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I meant.
All right, let's.
Thank you.